Te katoa, no mai haere mai and kene tēnei hui. Kia ora, he mihi araha mai. So good morning to everybody. Welcome to this webinar. We're thrilled to have you join us. This is going to be a really interesting one. Before I introduce our extraordinary three speakers, I just wanted to give a shout out to Martin Zerko, who's on this call from Ringahora. Ringahora recently did a survey, and you may have seen the results of that survey, which talked about retention. It talked about how do you find new people coming into the sector, and that's a piece of work that we will be working very closely with Ringahora, as well as with Alex and the team at Grow Tourism and with Service IQ. So there'll be more about that coming out at conference this year. But this, I think, this webinar today, it kind of is an extension of the work that we're doing in terms of, okay, we take people into our sector and we give them the fundamentals, but then it really hands over to leadership in terms of how do you maintain having those brilliant people in your business. And as we know, retention is a massive conversation that's happening at the moment, right across the broader spectrum of the visitor economy. So today we are honoured and thrilled to have three extraordinary speakers, and I'm going to start off first with Sam Howarth from Angus and Associates. Thanks, Sam. And then over to Alex Dykeman, who is in the tropical isles of West Timor, because, you know, that's where everyone goes for their holiday, right? Hence why she's looking so tanned and the rest of us aren't. But Alex obviously is the founder of Grow Tourism. And Alex, I also want to thank you so much for coming to us and suggesting this as a fantastic webinar. Very grateful. And then to our old buddy, Jason Hill, not so much on the old, right, Jason? But Jason Hill, Managing Director at Tourism Talent, one of our affiliated partners here at BEIA. And I'm really thrilled Jason's joining us today. Jason was very quick to recognise our sector as being something a little bit different to tourism or hospitality, and seeing it with its own unique quirks, and was very quick to pick up on that as a resource to everybody if they're looking for support in terms of getting new staff on board. So we're going to hear from Sam first. So Sam, I'm now going to hand over to you, and thank you so much. And by the way, we are recording this, so be aware of that, but looking forward to the content. Thanks, Sam.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Lisa, and kia ora, everybody. My name is Samantha Howarth, and I'm from Angus and Associates. I'll get this going here. All right. So I'm from Angus and Associates, and I look after our growth and experience solutions at Angus and Associates. So if you haven't heard of us before, we are a market research firm specialising in the tourism sector. As part of our range of products that we provide, we have an experience insights solution. And today we are talking about engaged employees and the impact that they have on our customer experience. My unofficial title at Angus and Associates is Chief Experience Geek, and I wear that proudly. It's an area of interest and passion for me in many facets. So we're going to start today by introducing you to our example customer and example employee. And I don't think it will take too much effort for you all to think about and recall a time where you've had a really disappointing customer experience. We've all had one. We're going to call our first-time customer first-time Frankie. Frankie is incredibly excited to come and try something new from this organisation, and then bam, they ask a question, they're hit with an eye roll, a snappy tone, or just clear disinterest from the team member that they've engaged with. And their excitement is completely replaced with total disappointment. So not only has Frankie walked in hopeful, she's now unable to get out of there fast enough, taking her hard-earned money and the company's reputation with her, never to return again. So what if I told you that in that moment, that experience, it had nothing to do with the product or the service that that organization provided, but it was everything to do with the person greeting them, and that person's experience is based on their employee experience. And so this is just an example of how your employee experience spills over into and drives your customer experience. So when we talk about employee experience, we're talking about that sum of every moment that matters in an employee's connection to your business. And this goes right through from your headline moments. So those really key moments in a business. We can all think about our first day and what that experience looked like when we joined an organization. I had a particularly standout experience in a previous role. In my own time, I run a sort of high tea events business. And on my first day in a kind of a sales administration role, I arrived to my desktop screensaver being cupcakes and having a small poster made for me that was high tea themed. So they really embraced kind of who I was outside of work and made that part of my onboarding experience. And that was a very long time ago, but it still stands out to me just as that, you know, one special moment in that first day. The other headline moments are when we have our first win as a new employee in an organization and how that is celebrated, how we are recognized and how our progress is recognized. And then when things are getting tough, it's also about that honest conversation. How does our team manage our experience when things don't go right? Do we feel supported through that, or is there a blame culture? So that's another really key moment. And then the last headline moment here is around your where to next conversation and that career progression. Look, I'm mastering what I'm doing. What does that progression look like for me? So these are just kind of 4 key headline moments. But what about the other 98% of the time that's not a milestone? And these are the in-between bits. And these are the bits that really define kind of how your business breathes. So whether it is your team huddles, your daily stand-up, your strategy and your progress sharing and how those roles fit into the bigger picture and vision of your organization. It's the Friday shout outs, it's who brings donuts next. Or on the flip side, whether people feel safe to say, I'm not okay today. The in-between bits are really where your employee experience is made or broken. So soon we're going to dive into what matters most to employees, but we're going to rewind a moment to explore the experience of the employee that had that customer interaction at the beginning of the presentation. So I'd like to introduce you to Ellie. On the surface, Ellie seemed really unhelpful in this experience, even rude, right? But let's take a look at how her day has gone so far. And some of these things will be relatable to you. So Ellie's alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning. She'd been up twice overnight with a teething baby. She skipped breakfast again. The bus was late, which meant she arrived just minutes before her shift started. She had no time for a team briefing or even a quick coffee. Her manager wasn't in yet. No one greeted her. No one asked how she was doing. She just started her role. And then came that interaction. And for Ellie, an innocent question from that customer felt like the 10th tiny weight on an already heavy day. So she had a pretty rough start to her day that morning. But here's the thing, it wasn't just that day. Ellie hadn't had a check-in with her manager in over a month. She was handling tough days on a regular basis and hadn't had any recognition for that. And for her, her role was feeling really repetitive. She had no clear path forward. So what felt like really bad service on that day to the customer was actually just a symptom. and a symptom really in a moment that was months in the making. So we can kind of see how all of those employee experience factors are rearing its head in the customer experience. And obviously, when the employee experience is amazing, that is going to have a positive effect on your customer experience. So we're going to try and sort of unpick Ellie's experience from the point of view of an employee, and having a look at the research that we've conducted at Angus and Associates as part of our Employee Experience Insights program. So we have a platform within our business called Get Smart that powers all of our employee experience engagement solutions. And so what we do with that is that we prepare benchmarks and derive benchmarks from the research that we conduct as part of that. All right, so what the research says. So we're going to start with employee engagement and loyalty, and we'll tackle the bad stuff first and progressively get better. So among our audience of mostly tourism organisations, just a third of people feel that they have learning and development opportunities that help them grow. In addition, there is a concerning level of bullying and harassment reported by people working in the sector, and that's even when those issues are reported to leadership and not dealt with properly. On the good side, people in the tourism sector generally feel really positive about their job, but just 15% say that they love it. So there is a disconnect with the level of excitement and engagement that people feel about their role. And then 70% of people know how their role contributes to the company's vision and values. So that's good, but there's still 30%, or 3 in 10 of us, that are not making that connection between how our role contributes to the bigger picture. And an alarming stat that we have is that the average employer NPS is just 7. So for those of you that kind of understand the Net Promoter Score concept, how likely would you be to recommend this organisation as a place to work, to friends or family, whoever it might be? It's on a scale from -100 to +100, and the average employer NPS is just 7. So if that was our customer NPS in our organisations, we would be wanting to take action, and this certainly indicates that there are some opportunities here for us in the sector. So let's have a look at the benefits that people value most beyond their remuneration, or beyond their salary or wages for their role. And the one that tops the charts is flexibility. Second to that is preferential pricing. So this is getting discounts or preferential pricing on the company that they're employed by's products or services. And then in third place is professional development. And we'll see professional development as a theme through these stats. And Alex will be talking a lot more about the value of professional development in her presentation. On the rewards and remuneration side, we ask as part of our employee engagement program the rewards and remuneration that are most attractive beyond in addition to your salary or your wages. Number one, there is bonuses or incentives. So how do we tie bonuses and incentives to our employees' roles? And then secondly, we can see there in a strong second position is professional development. Some more tactical things come up in this as well. So extra annual leave, more money, and vouchers. So these are just kind of those top 5 rewards and remuneration preferences. And then retention drivers. So in first place is team culture, and really our employee experience is a big part of our team culture. Jason's going to talk a bit about employer brand today. And so I look forward to sort of diving into that a bit more, but it's no surprise that team culture is number one. Number two there, better salary or wages. And three, good leadership. So if we think about Ellie's experience, she was really lacking some solid leadership in her role, and that was kind of leading to her, her behaviors and attitudes towards work. All right, so we are going to rewind and replay the Ellie situation. So if she came to work that day after the horrible morning that she had, was greeted by a manager, felt supported, was able to reset and get things under control before her day started, the experience that she had with Frankie coming in as a customer that day is going to be completely flipped on its head. So really that bad customer service interaction with the negative impacts from Frankie's perspective is going to be completely reversed. Frankie is not only delighted, she continues to return, spending her money with the business, and also referring that organization to her friends and family, or referring that experience to her friends and family. So the key takeaways from today, and I think the sort of overarching message is, when people love where they work, everyone notices. Your customers notice, your employees, your other employees notice. It's really important to think about that experience and really how you create a work environment that people don't want to leave. And so what do your company's headline moments look like? What is your organization's daily pulse? So what is those in-between moments? How are you making sure that your employees feel connected to that overarching vision? What are you doing in the professional development space? Should just be a good prompt for you to kind of review those things. And then, who's going to be your next raving customer just by supporting the person that was serving them? Cool. And then I'm just going to finish off with a little plug for Inside Out. So as part of our program here at Angus & Associates, we have launched our Insider community, which is for people that geek out over great experiences. Our next edition, which comes up on the 1st of August, is our Workforce edition. So if the content from today resonates with you, you might want to check out what we've got coming up with that. It's just one electronic magazine that we send out every second month. So QR code is there if you are interested in subscribing. But thank you so much for having me here today. I am going to hand over to Alex now, and she can take it from here.
Awesome. Kia ora, everybody. Thank you, Sam. That was such a cool story around the inside out process of employee experience, and how that customer's day was turned around just by some simple moves. So thank you for sharing. That was wicked. It is 7:25 here in West Timor, and my morning wasn't quite as bad as Sam's employees' morning, but there is a church just behind where we're staying, and they had this most insane wedding last night, and that bass went on till I'm going to say 2 a.m. and then the roosters started at about 4:30. But my team checked in on me this morning. My colleagues checked that I had all my deck ready to go. They asked how many cups of coffee I've had so far. The answer is 3. So I'll be good. I'll be good for the next few hours, then I'll crash. But I will jump in and share my slides. Bear with me. All good, all good. Cool. Lovely. Thank you for coming today, guys. I know it's July in your world, which means that This week you might be juggling a couple of conferences, heaps of supplier calls, and people calling sick just before pack-ins. I know that you're probably under the pump, so a massive thank you for giving us an hour of your week. Much appreciated. I am Alex, the founder of Grow Tourism. We are a capability development platform working with teams and businesses across the visitor economy, especially in high stakes, high energy environments like yours. This industry is built on people. This is not an industry that AI or automation can or will replace ever, which is so cool. And that's kind of what makes business events extraordinary, is the human performance that powers every seamless events experience. So in this industry, how your people show up and how you help your people to show up matters more than ever. So I'm going to share some short, sharp, practical tips to talk that focus on helping your team feel safe and feel stretched, because this is the sweet spot where learning happens, motivation grows, and performance really lifts. So let me explain. Lovely, lovely. So let's talk about your world, guys. Business events are high impact, high detail, can be pretty high pressure and high stress as well. Everyone's got clients expecting seamless delivery, heaps of sponsors to impress, and probably a mix of experienced pros and fresh faces trying to hold it all together behind the scenes. And sometimes you might be too busy reacting, or your team leaders might be too busy reacting to really have the luxury of leading. But here's the thing, if we don't invest in helping our people grow, especially in these really fast-moving environments, we just end up with the same problems, which are things like repeated mistakes, a lack of initiative, high turnover, and teams that just scrape by instead of thriving, and teams that are giving their employer an NPS of 7, which is what Sam just mentioned, which is a pretty big wake-up call. So I'm here to talk about a learning culture and building a learning culture. A learning culture isn't just a nice to have, it's actually very much a competitive edge. And it starts with understanding what your people need beyond just a paycheck week to week. So let's introduce this lovely pyramid, which you might remember from sixth form high school. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's the pyramid that shows what people need to function and thrive, all the way from survival right up to self-actualization, which is the top of the pyramid. This pyramid is all about what motivates human behavior, both personally and professionally at work. And here's why it matters. If someone's constantly worrying about whether they're going to get a proper break, or they don't know who to ask when a client's panicking, they're very much stuck at the basic needs at the bottom of that pyramid. They can't take initiative, they can't think strategically, they're just trying to survive the shift itself, they're just trying to get through the day. Now, in the business events world, that may be where a lot of new or casual staff could sit. And to move them up the pyramid, we really need to meet those basic and safety, so to speak, needs first. And those needs are things like clear communication, consistency, and a team culture that very much backs each other up. But this is where it gets really interesting, hey? So once you meet those foundational needs, your team won't just cope, won't just get through the shift, they're going to grow. And then this growth, it really compounds. So when someone feels like they are good at what they do, they feel like they belong, they're going to start stepping up just naturally because of this pyramid explains it. They might step up and lead a supplier meeting. Excuse me. They could anticipate client needs, or they may even improve how your team debriefs internally, just naturally after a big event. And when you stretch people a little further and you give them permission to problem solve and to learn and to lead, they're going to start self-actualizing, which is the very top of the pyramid. And this is a seriously awesome place to get your team to as a manager, because it's where people stop asking, hey, what do you want me to do next? And they start saying, hey, here's what I've already done. And that's exactly what we want, right? Is a team that owns outcomes, not one that just executes tasks, not one that just ticks off a task list. So don't just take my word for it. Here's some Gallup research to back up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Gallup is a global research company that specializes in human performance, and they do some really cool research around when it comes around cracking what really drives people at work. So, you know, we've got 45% lower turnover among employees who feel like they are well recognized. And that's massive, hey? So recognition that taps into self-esteem needs isn't just a feel-good gesture that makes you feel good and makes your team feel good. It literally delivers stronger retention and stability in fast-paced events teams, which is awesome. And this 14% boost in productivity shows how when you make people feel really valued and like they are connected to your purpose, aka the top tier of our pyramid, that leads to measurable, clear performance gains and loyalty for your staff. So there's clear ROI here. This is not just psychology. Cool. So we've put together some of the most common frustrations we hear from the business event managers that we work with from across Aotearoa, regardless of location, budget, or team size. This is a wide mix of people. And the first one that we hear all the time is that my team is just here for the paycheck. And yes, hey, look, sometimes that's true, especially if you're working with students or casual staff or people between roles. But most often, if people feel like they're just here for the pay at the end of the week, it's a sign that you may not have helped them see why this job matters. They're seeing the job as purely transactional. Turn up, do the things, get paid. And it's no surprise that they disengage quickly if that's how they're seeing their role. But as a manager, when we take the time to really connect the dots, show them the skills that they're gaining, show them how their work connects to something bigger or how it might lead to future roles, emphasize that they'll never be replaced by a robot in this industry, that transactional mindset is really going to start to shift. The next frustration we hear all the time is that people just don't step up, especially younger or casual staff. They just don't speak up. And this one's big because it really does impact everything from event flow to client experience to team culture as a whole. So an example of this could be a brand new AV assistant who's unsure what to ask or too afraid to admit they don't understand something. Or it could be a seasoned team member who has spotted an issue but is choosing to stay quiet because they feel like, well, what's the point? They don't feel heard, or that maybe they don't feel safe speaking up. And silence gets dangerous because it leads to avoidable mistakes, miscues, and that sinking feeling when somebody says, yeah, I saw that coming, but I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. I didn't actually feel safe enough to speak up. Now, people naturally think that confidence comes before contribution, but more often it's actually safety. Safety comes before contribution. So if people don't feel like it's okay to be human, to ask a question, say, hey, I don't understand this, or challenge something, the default is going to be silence. And the kicker is that when people don't speak up, we assume that they're not engaged. We assume they just don't care. But most of the time they really do care. They just don't feel safe enough or empowered to speak up. Makes sense. The next one is that no one takes initiative. So, you might be running from task to task, and meanwhile, you've got somebody standing around waiting to be told what to do. That's very, very frustrating. But here's the thing, most of the time when someone's not taking initiative, it's not laziness, it's actually hesitation. So people don't take initiative when they don't understand what the boundaries are, or when they don't feel trusted to make a call. They could be thinking, is this my job, or am I going to be pissing someone off? Or if I stuff up, am I going to be blamed for this? And this kind of hesitation creates bottlenecks and puts more pressure on your managers and your team members to make every single decision every time and catch every single ball. And that's a lot, hey? The next one is they're not growing with the business. So you might have really good people in your team. Maybe they've been with you for a while. They know the ropes. They turn up on time, but they've kind of hit cruise control. So they're doing the job, but they're not evolving with the job. They're not stepping up, taking on more, or pushing for better. And here's the kicker. It's not usually a capability issue. This is usually a challenge issue. So think about our pyramid again. When people stop feeling stretched, when they stop feeling stretched into that top tier, they stop growing. When they stop growing, they start disengaging quietly, often quietly. It's that quiet quitting mentality. And it's not because they're lazy or even because they're checked out. It's because the expectations that are being put on them from their leaders and their managers have plateaued, and then so has their motivation. So as leaders and managers, it's our job to see this early and stop that stagnation, and then reintroduce stretch to the top of the pyramid in a way that feels natural and achievable, but not overwhelming. So there's a real balance there. And our last one is, well, I haven't got time to coach, Alex. And to be fair, you probably don't. You're probably juggling a whole bunch of things. So when someone like me says, more coaching, it's really easy to roll your eyes and think, oh my goodness, that's just one more thing to add to my list. But here's the truth. If we don't make the time to build people up, we're going to stay stuck firefighting the same issues on repeat. So we're going to keep dealing with the same errors, the same breakdowns, and the same questions that could have been avoided with just a little bit of upfront support. Just a little bit of, hey, how was your morning? Think about Sam's example, that monthly manager check-in. It's just a tiny bit extra, and it makes a huge difference. And coaching doesn't have to be a 1-hour sit down with a whole development plan and laminated flashcards. It can just literally be a 90-second voice note after the event. Hey, you did these things so well. I'm so proud of you and our team. These are the things that I'd consider for next time. Have a great night. Have a great night. Send. It doesn't have to be a full development debrief. Or even better, make it peer-led. So make it led by your team. Get your experienced team members to do a Loom walkthrough of how to pack into a location, or maybe build a bank of mini lessons with Zoom videos from your team for your team. Coaching doesn't have to come from you, but it really should exist in every organization. So, with all that said, what can you actually do from next week to start embracing this learning culture and help to really stretch your team into the top of that pyramid? Now, the cool thing is that you don't need a huge L&D budget or a company-wide initiative to build a more engaged, high-performing team. Sometimes it's just the little itty-bitty things done consistently that makes the biggest impact. So here are 5 kind of simple, practical actions you can look at immediately. And the first one is show people the path forward. So this is really important for more junior roles, more casual roles, and to help get people out of that I'm only here for the paycheck mindset. So talk about the skills people are going to gain in their first week in the role. Emphasize that this industry is not going to be taken over by robots. And this is an industry where they're always going to be valued for being human. Help them visualize what's next. here's how this role could lead to the next stepping stone in your career. So this kind of chat takes the mindset from this is just a job with a paycheck to this is a stepping stone in a longer term workforce pipeline for me. The next one is create safe micro moments. So, culture doesn't shift in really big meetings. It shifts in the teeny tiny small things. So start briefings with a simple, what's one thing you're pumped about and one thing that you're worried about or unsure of this week, Help to normalize being human, and even look at inviting your junior team members to lead your debriefs, because that's going to build a lot of confidence and trust fast with more junior staff members. The next one is give people something to own. So let somebody lead the client walkthrough themselves or manage the coffee station. Now, these things might sound small, but they're really visible and they make junior staff members feel proud, and it gives them a sense of ownership. The fourth one is building learning into the day. So like I mentioned earlier, you don't need hours of formal training. Try little learning bites, which is where one person might share a quick tip or a quick learning during a post-event wrap-up. Maybe someone nailed a really tricky client interaction. Ask them to share how they nailed it and what they did. And finally, the last one is make an effort to close the effort reward loop. So in fast-paced environments like events, it's really easy to miss the follow-up. So when someone does a great job, remind them and tell them why that great job mattered, and actively link it to the guest experience, the client, or the overall event outcome. Talk about how that person was incredibly friendly and really nailed the coffee station, how you had a few customers comment on what an awesome job they were doing, and then talk about how that built the positive energy around the event overall. These kind of small things help to build pride and clarity and that deeper sense of purpose, which is the top of the pyramid that we're aiming for. Now, these things feel really small and they don't sound like much, but they do compound. These things drive kind of 10% better performance, so to speak. So, 10% more confidence means fewer mistakes under pressure. 10% more ownership might mean more initiative and less micromanaging. 10% more engagement is things like lower staff turnover and a stronger culture. So that 10% movement in people performance and engagement makes a massive impact on how you're building this team culture within your people. And these kinds of shifts really compound over time. They almost become your edge as an employer, because when your team's growing, everything's easier. And it really does start with a learning culture, and that's one that stretches people just enough to spark momentum, just enough to achieve that 10% growth. Think about the compounding interest idea, so to speak. So I'll just mention to finish that if you like these tips, or they resonated, this idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and building that learning culture into the top of the pyramid, please jump in and sign up to The Spark, which is our Grow Tourism monthly newsletter of really practical bite-sized tips that are all about growing and leading and building a really strong, resilient, engaged visitor economy. So please jump in and sign up to that. I'd love to see you there. Cool. Thank you for having me. Here's my LinkedIn details if you're keen to connect. And now next up is Jason from Tourism Talent, who is going to focus on all things retention and employer brand. So over to you, Jace.
Thanks, Alex. Kia ora tātou, everyone. Really love that 10% compounding interest concept at the end there, Alex. That's a little gem to take away today. Right, I'm just going to share my screen. That's all ready to go. So yeah, thank you. I've just been looking at myself on the screen here, and geez, I've heard of stale pale males, but I'm the epitome of it today, and obviously haven't got my lighting set up well. The Anna Hayward, who works in my team, has been in the business events industry for about a century, I think, and please don't tell her I said that, but she would probably have been a better person to talk to here today about this. But look, I am relatively new to the sector. I've been in the tourism industry for 30 odd years, and embarrassingly, I went to my first meetings event this year, which I was blown away by. You guys absolutely do an amazing job of promotion, and I wish trends could go back to being a little bit more exciting and innovative, like meetings was today. This year, sorry. I am the founder and co-director of Tourism Talent. We are a industry-specific recruitment and headhunting agency for tourism and business events. Right, why am I not progressing? There we go. So as I said, I'm not really an expert on what it's like to work in the business events industry. So I asked Google AI this morning, actually, and the positives that it said was that it was an exciting and fast-paced industry, creative outlet for people. You collaborate well together. There's the satisfaction of delivering events, the variety of roles, potential for high income, and you're a high growth industry at the moment. The challenges AI that it told me was that it's a stressful and demanding industry. It's long and unpredictable hours, high expectations and pressure, potential for unexpected issues to pop up, dealing with difficult clients, and the physical and mental toll that takes. So that's what AI said it was like to work in your industry, and I'm sure you can all resonate with the positives and the challenges in that. But I guess it's a lot of those things on the right-hand side that you guys deal with day to day, the pressure, the time pressure, and how that impacts on your team. So look, a good employer brand leads to talent retention and, more importantly, leads to talent attraction as well. And branding is something that I guess traditionally people think of as being something that you do to target your customers and your consumers, not so much your staff or your future staff. And here's a definition that we've sort of created about what an employer brand is. It starts and ends with your employee experience and your reputation, past, present, and future. So very similar to what Sam talked about earlier. It is your reputation amongst past employees, your present employees, and your future employees. So that's just a simple definition that we've come up with. So there's a million definitions of what a brand is out there, and people might tell you that it's a logo, it's how you present your business, it's the culture in your business, it's your value proposition. Ultimately, my view of it is that it's just your reputation. It's what other people think of your business, and that is your brand. And so you have a brand reputation or a brand in different audiences, and obviously you've got your consumers and your customers. You may have a reputation amongst potential investors in your business. What is their view of your brand? Amongst your suppliers, how do you treat them? Do you pay your bills on time? What is your brand? And obviously your employee brand is what your employees think of you. It's not what you think of your employer brand, it's what they think of it. And so your employer brand lives and breathes in the minds of your former, current, and future employees, just to reiterate that point. So the differences between a consumer brand and an employer brand, and the similarities, I might add. So we've all heard about your value proposition. What is your consumer value proposition? But what is your employee value proposition? What makes it of value to them to work for you? USPs, your unique sales points position. What is your UCP for your employer brand? Now, this can be your unique cultural points or your unique career points as well. Some people call that C, a career or culture, but what is that for your employer brand? Value alignment. You obviously try to align your values to your customers, as you should, with your employees as well. Your consumer brand is is strongly influenced by what you say, because your consumers often don't see what you're doing behind the scenes, but your employees do. So your employer brand is far more influenced by the way you act, the way you behave, and what you do than what you say. So why bother with this whole employer brand thing? Why bother with focusing on employee retention? And look, Sam and Alex have covered a number of these, but there are some, I guess, some bottom line benefits that we've already talked about. One is obviously the cost reduction. If you've got to continually recruit, and the cost of advertising and using recruiters and things is not cheap these days. So there's an instant bottom line benefit to you. Increased productivity was already proven with some great data from Alex before. Recruitment and training, if I can't even say that word, efficacy, there we go. And leading to, hopefully, using that experience that Sam gave, increased revenue, because happy employees are happy, providing great service. Obviously, all of the softer things that benefit indirectly the company, but also the employee around morale, employee satisfaction. By growing your employees, you increase their levels of experience, they're happier, and obviously it leads to a better customer experience. Now, many of you will have seen this famous quote from Richard Branson: clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. Again, reiterating the point that Sam made earlier. So things that influence and attraction and retention, obviously compensation does, but as we've just heard and we know now, it's actually not one of the main drivers. Job security, career development, I won't dwell on these too quickly because some of this is repetition, but it's just another reminder of some of the things that you can be doing to help influence this. I'll quickly bring all these up. But this is some data from Seek and a company called AFR Boss. The 10 things that motivate employees. We've already seen a lot of these in some of the previous presentations, but one of the ones that is especially coming through stronger and stronger at the moment, especially with millennials and the younger generation, is around purpose. Knowing that what they're doing is helping other people, helping society, helping potentially even the environment. What can you be doing as a business or as a team to be showing that there's a reason for being here other than just simply economic gain? Flexibility, we all know what that is at the moment around post-COVID, and I'm right in the middle of a negotiation with an employer and employee right now, where what their final negotiation point is around flexibility. It's not about salary, and we're finding less and less people negotiating salary, but other things around flexibility and options around well-being. So a number of companies these days have a well-being day. They have a day off to focus on well-being over and above their normal paid leave. It could be a day to go and get a massage, and some companies are even paying or offering vouchers for that day off to go and do something to focus on your well-being. Equality and inclusion, I think and hope that is a given today, but again, it's something that a younger generation coming through are looking at even before they join you. How do you perform in that space? What is your approach to equality and inclusion? Empowerment, another simple word for this is trust. Trusting your employees and empowering them to get on with their jobs really does create and drive motivation. Learning, Alex's point here, feeling that you're constantly progressing and learning for the benefit of the company, but also personally. You're not likely to work for the company for life, so it's providing benefits to employees with the view that one day they might move on, but that's going to motivate them to potentially stay longer. I'm going to quickly rip through this because I'm conscious of time, but democracy, making sure everyone has a voice, that's already been mentioned. But there's quite a few autocratic leaders, I would say, out there who think they know what their team environment is, who think they understand how their team views them, who think that they are employers of choice. And it's fascinating judging tourism awards and things, which I've recently done for Taupo, and Yeah, unless you can prove it, unless you've got independent data and measurement, and that's where the likes of Angus can, and associates can help you with that engagement data. You really don't have a clue, because the reality is people can be too scared to say, too scared to ask. And so, proving that your employee environment is good through data and through engagement is really, really key. Don't just assume it. Choice, obviously, giving people challenges, pushing them to their limits, gives them motivation, and then ultimately a sense of belonging and team environment. So employee engagement is about how the employee feels and how they act in their roles. Workplace culture is creating that environment that shapes those feelings and actions. That's the role that you can play as an employer or as a manager, is creating an environment where they feel engaged. So more data. There's all sorts of data out there. Thankfully, Sam had some New Zealand-centric data and New Zealand tourism industry and business events industry-centric data. This is from the World Economic Forum. They asked last year what employees want in future jobs. And again, to reiterate some points made earlier, the top 3 things were around supporting employee health and well-being, providing effective reskilling and upskilling, and improving progression and promotion opportunities. And there's quite a big gap, you'll notice there, between the next one there, which is offering higher wages and other things. So people really are focusing on how they feel at work, how they're made to feel, rather than how much they are paid. We asked a 2-time winning employer of choice company, Go Rentals, what some of their secret tips were. And here was some quotes and some tips they gave. Make listening a habit, not a task. So, Go Rentals, I have to say, they absolutely blow us away with what they do for their team. And if you're interested to see how they promote their employer brand online, jump on and have a look at their Facebook pages, their socials, because they are advertising to future employees with their content, and it's brilliant. Recognize and amplify success. So recognition is one thing. Well done, have a morning tea, buy some muffins. But how do you amplify that success? How do you keep them being successful, potentially giving them promotions or other options and ideas around that? So everyone says recognize success, but I loved how they amplified success there. And then practice transparency. Everyone says I've got an open door policy, but if you're scary, or people perceive you as being too scary to walk in your door, then your open door is going to stay open, but no one's going to walk through it. And I had that uppercut a few years ago when I was at AT, where we did one of those 360-degree sessions, and a number of staff said that they were scared to talk to me, which it was pretty gutting. And it was a moment in my career where I just thought, crikey, I've got a personal brand issue going on here, and I've been trying to fix it ever since, because I think I'm a big teddy bear anyway. But it really does come back to that honesty and that independent data that you can access to give you a real feedback about what people really think about your team and your management style. So to wrap this up, just some more data and slightly different, but yeah, again, 75% of job seekers, according to the World Economic Forum, consider your employer brand before even applying for a job. And I can certainly back that up with evidence that we have at Tourism Talent around ringing people or headhunting people, and they just say, I'm not working for that company. There's no way I'm going to go and work for them, because their employer brand is so bad. And I could name, but I won't, a number of employers in the sector who struggle to attract talent because of their employer brand. And 69%, of candidates would reject a job offer, even if they get offered the job, because of the research or what they've heard about that employer. So again, we have it all the time. People are offered jobs and then they just say, look, I've done my own homework, I've spoken to a few people, and I'm not going to go and work for them, and then we're back to the start. So it's real. I'll let you read the rest of those. So look, just in summary, I guess my key points here around measurement. Please, take the time and invest in getting independent research done on your staff engagement, and you need to make sure that the staff have an environment where they are safe to provide honest and open answers, where you cannot find out who said what in their surveys. It has to be done independently, and use that data to take action. As I said, you may think you know what your team culture is and that everyone's happy, but prove it. Please prove it. And just a quick note, if anyone is looking at going into awards, I note that BEIA got their new awards out this year. If you're going to go in, and please prove the things you think you do and the things you want to say. Show the data, because as judges, unless you can prove it, it's just an opinion, and it's really hard to give you a high score. Please take care of your staff. There are so many companies out there now really showing care, and I use examples of the Sedema for Go Rentals, who are providing things like private health insurance to their staff, who are providing life insurance to their staff. We've got one example just quickly around Sedema. One of their cleaners, I think it was in Rotorua, her husband passed away. They had a huge mortgage still to pay off, and the life insurance they couldn't afford, that Sedema took out on their behalf, paid off their mortgage after the husband passed away. So it's little things like that that make a huge difference, and I can assure you that cleaner will probably work for Sedema for the rest of her life. So little things that show care rather than just economic benefit or a free day off. And finally, everyone else had a wee plug, so I would do what I need to do with myself. Don't have a slide for it, but look, if you're looking to find the best talent in the business events industry, we will headhunt them for you, because the best talent aren't looking for jobs on Seek. Thank you. Over and out.
Thanks, Jason. Really appreciate that. What an fascinating webinar that was, and I can't thank everyone enough. Just a real couple of things that kind of really struck out for me was that NPS score is frightening, Sam. So as a total industry, we've got to do something about that, and I think I might be raising that with some of my colleagues when we get together and talk about this. Jason, did you know that this industry is rated amongst the top 5 in the world of having the most stress related, as being one of the most stressful related jobs? So right up there with the Marines. Who would have thought? But yep, it's pretty stressful. So thanks for calling that one out. It was also interesting to me about the 14% higher productivity for companies that use structured employee programs. And I'm going to give a shout out to our industry, because incentive travel. That's one of our gigs, and that's what we do. And so it was a really interesting one as well. I want to thank you all for also giving us some follow-up with the various newsletters and things like that. And obviously, Jason, everybody on this call will know Anna Hayward, because yes, she has been in the sector for about 100 years. So and we love her for that. So thank you for that. I was also really interesting about the future, about who what's really important to them. And it made me think that perhaps that's also based on the stage that you're at in your life within the sector, that if you're a certain generation, that the things that inspire you or the things that really are important to you will differ. And I think that's possibly an important thing to consider as well. What you wanted when you were starting out in a job is different to what's important to you at the end of your career. But all of those things are really important. So that was a really empowering thing. Look, we've recorded this session. We're going to be putting this onto our website. that will include all the slides that you saw, and also the contacts for everybody, for Jason, Alex, and Sam as well. So if you do have any questions, I'm sorry we couldn't get round to those questions, but if you do have questions, I know that all three of them would be very, very happy to get those questions from you. To all the Loric Wangs, thank you so much for improving our own Loric's brand profile. So thank you so much for that. You may not. Yeah, who doesn't love tech, right? So thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it. This is absolutely a smashing session, and we're very, very grateful to our speakers. So we'll say ka kite anō, and take care, everyone.
See you soon, everyone. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, everyone.